Welcome back from the ad break. You are still watching Prime Life. Now, this evening we talk to Norwyn K, who is a visionary leader in the mental health space and the founder of Zenzi, which is a South Africa's groundbreaking crisis prevention software. With over a decade of experience in the industry, Norwyn has seen firsthand the limitations of the traditional approach to mental health support and has created a tool that not only challenges the status quo but actively prevents emotional distress before it actually escalates. Thank you so much for joining us, Norwyn, and welcome to Prime Life.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to be on the show with you today.
Thank you so much. Now, before anything, can you please tell us a little bit more about Zenzi?
Yes, so Zenzi was created on the premise that I think wellness was solving the wrong problem. I think if we look back over many years of how we looked at wellness, it was always very reactive, and we're solving surface level symptomatic issues. So, for example, if somebody has a food allergy, nobody is going to go into Discam or Clicks and buy Allergix and say that this is the cure to my allergy. All that it will do is systematically treat sort of the symptoms, okay? But if you want to get to the cure of why did the food allergy arise, then you'll have to look into your microbiome, into your gut, and figure out what's going on there. And this is essentially what Zenzi is. It's a tool, it's a self inquiry tool that doesn't just look at people's problems on a surface level, but instead of giving generic answers, it will begin to help you find out what are the right questions that will allow you to understand what's actually going on beneath the surface.
That's very impressive, and I'm really excited to talk about Zenzi. It sounds like a very interesting tool. Now, tell us about what led you to this innovative solutions, and how does Zenzi challenge, the traditional approaches to mental health support?
Sure. So let's start with that. The traditional approaches to mental health support is, as I said, it is very reactive and it is very prescriptive. So it is a five-step plan here. Go read this there. Take a walk here. Don't take it personally. It's all things that I think deal with surface level things. So what makes Zenzi different is that it does not give generic advice or answers or prescriptions in that sense, but instead what it does, it only asks you the right questions that will allow you to deep dive and go down the rabbit hole until an understanding of the problem arises. And within the understanding comes the actual solution. So, how did this come about? Well, I've been in the mental wellness space now for well over a decade. And in South Africa, we have a very unique issue. And the issue that we have is that over the last 5 years, we've done a lot of research, and it's actually quite a shocking stat. But there's about 25 people every day in the workplace that try to unalive themselves. And this is because of work related stress. This is because of, a lot of different issues that happen. And this happens all over the country. It's almost like a pandemic on its own. And I don't think we've done a good enough job of trying to understand and to get to the bottom of that. And I think it's because of what we just said right now. A lot of the traditional forms of help is a very when a problem arises, then we'll try to fix it. But what I want to do is something completely different. I want to get in front of the problem so it doesn't end up becoming a category 5 disaster. And that's kind of what Zenzi is. And another reason, sort of, why Zenzi came about was about 6 months ago, I had actually lost my dad to colon cancer. And he picked it up at a very late stage. He was at stage 4 when he picked it up. But my dad was ill for a little while before that. But the problem is that he did not know what was the right question to ask his doctors. And his doctors didn't know what was the right question. He was being treated for things in his lungs, but nobody realized that he was actually dealing with colon cancer. So for a year, he was being told to, take medication for his lungs and his chest. But one of the things about colon cancer is that one of the symptoms of it is a persistent cough. And that's why he was being treated for his coughing in his chest. But again, if he was asked the right questions, in fact, if he knew what was the right questions to ask, then perhaps it could have been a different result. So it was a very personal, emotional sort of journey for me in terms of seeing what's out there, seeing what's going on, and wanting to do something about it.
Hmm. And just to delve a little bit more into the story that you just said, if Zenzi was being utilized at that time, what do you think would be the right questions to ask?
Right. So I have a tool and a feature that I've built into Zenzi, which is Zenzi Health Intelligence. So if someone goes to the doctor, for example, or gets a medical report from a hospital, or even like a doctor's note, and let's be honest, sometimes it's difficult to understand these things. As a normal like people, we
Mm,
don't understand the jargon, we don't understand the terminology. So what Zenzi does is that it is able to explain these very complicated terms to you in a way that you can understand. And then it will give you a list of questions that you can actually go and ask your doctor or, your nurse or someone who's actually looking after you so you can better understand it. And in the creating of the software, I've trialed it out, many, many times, and people who might have the cough symptoms that my own father had, it will actually ask deeper questions to try to make the user understand perhaps this is coming from somewhere else. Have you checked XYZ? What about 1, 2, 3? Have you looked at the effect of something else? And so it's all questions that carve away at what potentially could be the actual problem.
mm. I think it's very impressive that we have such a tool now available. But I think it's also quite kind of also a little bit disappointing that our medical system just looks at things from a surface level. I mean, if you look at how many cases of people that actually did, pass away only because they were, misdiagnosed or they didn't see something early. So I think Zenzi is definitely a tool that South Africans need to get their hands on. But what strategies does it employ to promote openness, transparency, and acceptance of mental health struggles amongst users?
Sure. So I think the first thing that I'm quite, very proud of is that Zenzi speaks all 11 official languages.
Mm,
So one of the things that I've realized is that some people from certain cultures and traditions and backgrounds, it's very difficult to be able to speak or get help in the language that you are comfortable with, and this is why a lot of people don't.
mm,
So with Zenzi, you never have to worry about that. You never have to feel ashamed because it will speak your language. It understands South African context. It speaks like a South African person, like you and I would, with all our nuances and idiosyncrasies as well. But also, Zenzi is a consciousness advisor. So, what makes it different is that, as I said, it never gives you advice. And this is important because I think advice is overrated. And the evidence of what I just said is all around us. Because if the advice that is out there right now in the books, in the experts, even in the doctors, not that anyone is wrong, but if those things were effective, then most people would be more healthier, more happier, would not be dealing with their mental well-being issues. But that's not what we see. In today's modernized world, there is more people who are anxious, who are depressed, who are, all problematic in every aspect of their lives, but the information is there. So the advice then becomes overrated. And I think what's more fundamental is the question, because I think the right question will lead to a person understanding what the answer might be. And that is not in our culture. We live in such a fast paced world that we just want a quick fix. If something goes wrong, we want a pill. What pill can I pop? What's the best book I can read? What's the quick thing that I can do to make me feel better temporarily?
mm.
And unfortunately, that doesn't work. So Zenzi really takes that and it flips it around completely, and it delves into a deeper understanding of what the issues could be.
That's very impressive. Now, can you please give us a little bit more insight into what Zenzi's consciousness coaching entails and how it differs from traditional therapy or counseling methods?
Right. So very simply, as I said, what Zenzi will never do is it will never give you advice. So it will never say to you, do X or try this. or things that are like if you put it on Google or any type of chat GPT or anything, it'll
Yes.
always tell you to, why don't you try XYZ.
Mm.
It will never do that. It is programmed and designed to never do that. Instead, if you feed it a problem like you are stressed at work, or you are
Yes.
afraid of getting fired, people are losing their jobs around you, or you are having financial difficulties, what it will then begin to do is go down a path where it wants to understand, what is this a reaction to? Where is this really coming from? What is this emotion you feeling? Is it really about the event? Or is there something else that you haven't seen yet that the event is triggering? The thing that I always say in my line of work, and it's in my books and it's in all the things that I do, is that people, situations, and circumstances never create our pain. They simply reveal a pain that already exists within us. So, and if we take that into any situation in our lives, there's often times where we feel like, oh, it's this person that's causing me pain, or it's this specific situation, or this, whatever the case is. But I will argue that whatever that situation might be, that's really not the cause of the pain, because the pain actually already exists deep down inside. That situation is simply shining a light on that pain, and it's bringing it into the surface. So what Zenzi does is it wants to understand that, and it will hold your hand very gently and very compassionately, and it will together explore what that could be. Because once you understand that, you are liberated from that issue.
Mm. Most definitely. Now, lastly, what role do you envision Zenzi playing in, advancing mental health advocacy?
I think the ultimate form of mental well-being and mental health is personal agency, and I think that's what we've lost in our culture, unfortunately. And again, I think it's because of a lot of different factors. But again, we live in a very fast-paced world where we want quick fixes all the time. But what we have lost is our agency to fix our own problems, and this is problematic. So what Zenzi does is it helps you regain your agency, because once you are able and capable of understanding where is the root cause of my emotional unwellness, or what is the root cause of this specific issue or pain or suffering or misery that I'm experiencing. When you can get to the bottom of that, then there is no need for the millions of books on self-help, or the millions of different experts or gurus, or psychotherapies and stuff out there again. And it's not because those things are wrong, but simply we just outsource our own intelligence or our own power to everything outside of us. And I don't think that's the most effective way to solve the problem.
Mm. Now, before I let you go, where can people find Zenzi and how can people join it?
Sure. So you can find it online. So if you just go to Zenzi, Zenzi dot online, you can find it there. You can also just reach out to myself or Norwyn K on social media. I'm all over the place. And if you want to use it in your company, you can just get a whole. It's an enterprise software at the moment. So at this stage, at least, it's not on an individual basis. It's made for companies to use for their staff's well-being. But if there is anyone who's listening right now that wants to play around with it, I will give you access so you can have a look at it and play with it, and get a feel of what Zenzi is all about.
Hmm. I mean, Noen, thank you so much for joining us. This has been a very insightful, very educational conversation that I just had with you. And thank you so much for, building such a tool as a solution for many South Africans. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my friend, and have a good night. Take care. Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you so much. Viewers at home, this was the visionary behind behind Zenzi. His name is Norwyn K. And I think I'm very intrigued and I'm so excited to actually see it and try it out, because it sounds like a very, very necessary tool for all South Africans to get their hands on. But without wasting any time, let's go to a quick break. We'll see you right after this.